Here under the MOPS tab, we're going to do some edits and change some things for the setup of the machine. So under the Setup tab, we need to first set the axis for the machine. We want to make sure on this first little icon here, we're going to click this. We want to make sure this is set to a 3-axis machine. There are more advanced CNC machines, but ours is a 3-axis, and it will throw off your code if this isn't set to the correct indication. So we're going to make sure we set that to 3-axis, hit OK, and you can notice down here in the setup area that it says machine 3-axis. Next piece we need to set is the post processor. So we're going to do that under this second icon called post. And the first thing we need to set here is we need to select the current post processor, and it's just set at the first of the list. So we want to pull this down, and we want to find ShopBot in our list, and you'll notice there are 2 of them here. We want to select the first ShopBot, and we need to go in and edit a few pieces with this. So we're going to click on edit, and most of this is like it is. We don't need to change anything. We need to make sure that output file extension is SBP for ShopBot. Output comment is the single quotes. You should know that from your ShopBot programming. Motion, circle, helical, spindle, feed rate, and miscellaneous all remain the same. You don't need to change anything. All the settings are correct. If we go to start and end, you'll notice here that what this is doing is at the beginning of each set of code that it outputs for ShopBot, this is what it's going to put in here. And right now, if I move this to the next line so it's a little clearer, all it's doing is setting the output to absolute. So I'm going to put some other pieces in so that at the beginning of each code that I write, each block of code, what it needs to put in. First thing I need to do is do a set output, that's SO, comma, output 1 to on, which is a 1. And what this is going to do, I'm going to leave a little note here, single quote, turn router on. Next line, I want to put a pause statement in here, and I'm going to give the comment, give. So what this is going to do is it's going to set the output to absolute. It's going to set the output switches number 1 to on, which allows the router to turn on. It'll give myself a little prompt screen to tell me to actually push the button on the start to actually turn the router itself on. Then it's going to pause for a few beats to give the router time to spin up to full speed before it starts running the program. I could put other things here. I could bring it to a certain location or that type of thing. Next, for the end code, I'm going to move again this down just so I can see it a little easier. I want to look at this JH, which is jog home. Jog home sometimes works well, sometimes doesn't. So what I want to do is I want to JZ to 3, and I want to jog in the Z direction first so that I bring the tool out and clear any work. Then I want to J2 to 0, 0, and that's going to bring the tool back to home position. So it does the same thing as a jog home, but it's more reliable than the JH command. I then need to set the output 1 to 0, which is to turn it off. That stops the spindle, and then we're going to put an end command in to actually stop the program. So we want to make sure we do that. Under tool change, there's a slight change. You'll notice here that it's setting up the feed rate, but then it has a little piece for editing the tool. We want to take that out because we do not have a tool changer. Same under tool change macro, we want to blank that area so it doesn't try to put in a way for it to change tools in the middle of a program, which would simply confuse the ShopBot. Multi-action motion and cycles and variables, those are all fine, so we're going to hit save, then close. Last thing that we need to change here is posted file extension is .sbp for ShopBot. That way we have the right file extension on the program. And then we hit OK, and we see now that the post is now set to ShopBot. Two more icons that we're going to cover here. Second one is under Preferences. We can pull this down. We can set a few preferences. We can set colors. So what color do I want the stock, the cuts in the stock, and these are primarily used when we simulate. So you can change those to your own specifications. We can also change machining preferences. Primarily the only one here you want to make sure is that the tool tip is the one selected. If you do Tool Center, it can throw off your measurements and you'll end up cutting deeper than you think you will. So we want to go with Tool Tip, and there are reasons for using both of these, but for this class, Tool Tip is going to work. Part sampling resolution will control how much processor time it takes to render the simulation. So for the most part, leave it on standard. That's a lower resolution. We can also change directly some of the simulation preferences, how accurate, how fast do we want it to go, those type of things. And feel free to kind of play around with those. Tool display is often one that I change either to transparent or wireframe or even to none, so that it's out of the picture. I just see the cuts being created, so I can tell a little bit better what's going on. So you can play around with that. I like to display tool holder during simulations so that I can actually see the top of that collet nut and where it is in relation to the part that I'm cutting. So those are for simulation preferences. Utility, there's nothing really here that you need to change. So those are the major setups to start with.